Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar of RAI partnering with SAP for the title Journey Towards Becoming Customer-Centric, Agile, and Resilient. Friends, we have seen in the last 1.5 years, there has been a tremendous change, especially in the retail industry. And we have seen that change has happened at the customer level. We have seen at the retailer level. We have seen at the supply chain level where a lot of disruption has happened. We have seen at the payments level. We have seen not only in that, right from the strategic objectives of the organizations till the operational issues that they had to face and they are still facing. Everything has changed. So the saying that change is constant has been a benchmark in the last 18 months, that every time you see that the customer is changing, the technology is changing, the government rules and regulations are changing. So how do we tackle this? And what is it that we need to do? What is it that some successful brands have already done? Keeping all these things in mind, we have designed and curated this session where we have got 8 industry experts with us to deliberate on what all strategies and how they have coped up to become more customer-centric, resilient, and agile. I would like to introduce our panel for today, and I take this pleasure doing so. We have with us Mr. Amit Modak, CEO, PN Gadgil and Sons. We have got Mr. Dharmarajan K, Chief Product Officer, Tata CLiQ. We have got Ms. Lavanya Nalli, Vice President, Nalli Group. Vice Chairperson, Nalli Group. Apologies. We have got Sudakshina Ghosh, Industry Business Architect, Team Lead, SAP India. We have got Madhav Nishtala, Director, Retail, Industry and Customer Advisory, SAP India. We have got Alfred Choi, Solution Expert, SAP Customer Experience, Asia Pacific and Japan. We have got Vinit Jain, COO, VMart. And we have got Rajgopal, Nayak, CTO, Metro Brands. Friends, now I would like to hand over the mic to Mr. Madhav Nishtala to share his presentation with us, and then we proceed for the panel discussion. Over to you, Madhav.
Thank you, Dr. Hitesh. I hope you can see my screen and hear me.
Yes, Madhav.
Perfect. Thank you. Outset, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm glad to be here. What I intend to speak about today is, like you mentioned, a few of our observations on where we've seen the industry change over the last year and a half, and a point of view of how we can help. The first aspect is fundamentally from a trend perspective, is that commerce today is everywhere. What do I mean by that? We've moved away from the concept of brick and mortar, physical stores, and online. Yes, they still exist, but the distinction in the customer's mind has blurred. There are multiple ways he can purchase, including newer forms of digital, which could be an app-based purchase or a new form of physical purchase, which is at my doorstep. Fundamentally, this means that the concept of channel as we knew it is now diminishing. And therefore, in that sense, there is only one single channel, that is the customer channel. Terms that we are used to using distribution channel or omni-channel in that are now diminishing, and in a few years, we would possibly have a situation where there is only one channel. And that's one fundamental change. That's a reorientation for all of us in terms of how and our systems and the way we operate. The second aspect is the merging or the moving of the digital into the physical. Yes, physical is a term that we've been used to, we've heard it for a couple of years. This is not specific to the last couple of years, yes. But what was at the horizon today is at our doorstep. Today, customers expect a form of digital in a retail store. What does that mean? It could mean a virtual try-on like a magic mirror. It could mean AR VR experience where it says I'm buying some equipment or I'm buying for a look. How does this look? So you want to simulate that, or it could be a person buying spectacles from home but still wants to see how he looks like. All of these are examples of how digital has come into the store, and this has come because customer is now looking that way, and the old mode of going to a shop and trying, buying, all of that is in terms of is undergoing a dramatic change. The third aspect is the customer expects us to know him. Now, this is in a sense a catch-22 situation. Customer expects us to know him, but for us to be able to know him, we need information from him. Will the customer share information with us? The first question is, research and our own study says that yes, the customer will be willing to share information, provided there is transparency in terms of how this information is going to be used. So therefore, the use and the control of the information, an ability to be used, for want of a better word, the right to forget has to be vested with the customer. So, and then third aspect is that he needs to see value in sharing this information. When these three elements are there, the customer is willing to share information. Provided he is willing to share information, from a retailer perspective, there is a need for them to listen. How do we bring in mechanisms to listen to what the customer is saying? It could be in the form of a feedback. It could be in the form of a non-intrusive observation of the way he's shopping or the way he's buying. Post listening, to be able to understand and act, which is an ability to use that information to positively change and the way it operates. It could mean a change in assortments. It could mean a change in the preferences and the promotions that are being sent to this. All of these needs a certain amount of adaptation that needs to be done both in the processes and in the tech infrastructure that the retailer has. The next trend is about engagement, a one-to-one personalized engagement with the customer. This concept has been around for a few years now, but what it essentially brings to mind is, with what has happened over the last 2 years, we now have a digitally mature customer. I say digitally mature because he's now used to and is willing to stick with the new ways of shopping, which is use of devices, trying to look at various forms of non-physical shopping. A digitally mature customer, a customer who's willing to share his information with us, so and then use that to be able to drive and create what I would call using technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence to bring together a perfect retail storm for customer experience. This, in a sense, is a storm that is waiting to happen. The question that arises, however, is that in a country like ours, and how can that scale? Is this really a scalable model? And how does this work from a perspective of, you can do a pilot, but how does this work from a perspective of to be able to do it for all my walk-ins, to do it for all my customer base? The answer lies in understanding of what the SAP framework is about customer experience maturity. Moving from a multi-channel to omni-channel to what we call today a customer adaptive experience. It is an ability to adapt the customer experience to what the he is looking for. So in terms of an ability to switch channels, switch in ways of shopping, seamlessly move from a digital mode to a physical mode of purchase and go back to a digital mode. It could be an order delivery or an order fulfillment mode, or a product browse mode, or getting product information, and to be able to look at that from a perspective of trying to understand and predict his behavior, and then alternatively change the offerings. This fundamentally means a digital transformation from a perspective of a listening to the customer, reacting in the moment, and to be able to bring a transformation at the back. So this is in a sense the new customer adaptive retailing as we talk about it, bringing the customer back into the center of the retailing operations, not just from a front end store operations, using customer data to be able to bring it back to merchandising, and to be able to change an assortment, to be able to change what product sells where, and to bring all of that into one seamless integrated core. And that's in a sense the experience. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. An online shopper, for example, is shopping, and he's picked something which is not his usual choice. The first trigger is for us to be able to recognize at that point in time that there is a switch in his buying habits, to be able to react and maybe give him a survey or a prompt in saying why and what is happening and what has been the change. Using that information, which could possibly be dissatisfaction, whatever be the reason, using that information in the immediate, what I call the outer loop, being able to respond and register the switch and give him recommendations based on his new purchase, to be able to push to him relevant informations, promotions based on his new purchase, which essentially means he's made a choice, change in choice. You have a system or you have an ability to react at that point in time and change the offer to him, either a promotion offer or the products that are recommended. And from the inner loop or the subsequent processing in terms of to be able to take that data, see if it is valid for a segment or a customer cluster, and then use that data to bring in changes into your product assortment. Try and drop a few color, refine and make your assortment that you are offering to the customer very specific, and keep an ability to keep changing that at various points in time. This, in a sense, is a real life example of how hyper-personalization will work. All of these work with an ability to listen, react, and also bring back, bring back a systemic change in what was traditionally called the backend. Though we shouldn't call it the backend anymore. There are all of this, the entire operations is now customer facing, but from a sense, that is how this whole transformation has to happen. And how does this work? How does SAP look at this? Which is in a sense a view of how we can help. From a framework perspective, our first point, or the first view, is an ability to give a single view of the business. A single view of the business from a customer perspective. That is, to be able to give a customer a view of everything that the customer is doing with your enterprise, to be able to bring that together and give a customer 360, and which then gives a view of what his preferences are, what his buying patterns are, and what are the typical areas that you should look at. A view of inventory across points, because the fundamental principles of customer centricity at the end of the day is to be able to give the customer what he wants. And that's driven by a single view of inventory across locations, not just in your stores, not just in your warehouse, but what is in transit from your supplier, and also what is in your marketplaces where you are a seller. Across, how do we bring a single view of the inventory? How do we bring a single view of a master, so which then has an ability to give you a brand or a single view of master, so that you know that across your value chain a product is the same, and therefore it is in a sense traceable, and look at it across locations, which gives you an ability to bring the entire platform. One of the things that we made different now is fundamentally democratize the access to the tech backbone. Anybody in across the ecosystem will work on the same backbone, and therefore gone are the days where there are batch programs and there is an update. So you say, yes, that has happened, but I'm waiting for an update from the store. I'm waiting for an update from the marketplace. All of that converges back into a single backbone. Everybody works on one single platform, and therefore that enables the single view of business. This is in a sense the view of what we do with the customer activity repository, as it's called. The second aspect is about, we spoke about it before, but in terms of how do we build customer trust, to be able to build his profile with his consent, when use that customer data to be able to give him a completely contextual and intelligent predictive presentation. So which then is about to look at a complete hyper-personalization view to the customer. So that is, in a sense, the second aspect. So how do we build customer data, build a customer golden record, as it's called, and use the customer golden record to be able to drive personalized recommendations. Our customer data cloud and platform enable this. Sorry. The next aspect is bringing in innovations from an experience perspective, looking at intelligent assistants to be able to blend reality, look at AR, VR, and bring all of that together, the physical part of what we've spoken about into the stores. So that is the aspect which allows you to drive customer innovations. There are a set of extensions that we have readily available in the SAP store, but that apart, the business technology platform has the capabilities to be able to drive this. So if you have some time, please do visit the Titan site and you would see the SAP experience in action. So where Titan Eyewear, where you can virtually try on your spectacles and then decide and take the experience end to end from an order perspective. An ability to look at the fundamental aspect of giving visibility across the enterprise. One of the fundamental features of customer centricity is information. How do we bring intelligence across the enterprise? How does everybody see the same amount of information, same amount of reports at that point in time? The other aspect that is about bringing in intelligence in the embedded form. What does that mean? That means that while you are transacting, you need to have the relevant information needed to make the decision. You're raising a purchase order. You need to understand whether you have the budgets for that. You have to understand whether these are intelligence that are now being embedded back into the cores, and therefore you have that information at that point in time to be able to make that decision. If you're running a sale and you must be in a position to tweak the offer at that point in time during the day, intraday, to be able to ensure that you get the maximum value for the buck. That's the ability from an insight and ability to drive actions immediately. The last aspect is to connect the backend, which is the connected digital supply chain. This means firstly, an ability to look at the entire process end to end, to be able to predict what we call the unified demand across all your sales points, not just channels, but across sales points, to be able to see and understand what would be the demand, and basis that to be able to build a supply chain which is able to fulfill and service this. Fundamentally, to be able to, let me give you an example of, traditionally we've been used to supplying to stores, supplying to marketplaces, which is about managing business processes in bulk, to be able to move cartons. Now there is a need to service a single order, and therefore the orientation and the alignment that you need to do from a supply chain to be able to service a single order within the SLA in itself requires a change. And that's the fundamental shift that we have to enable, which is about being able to build an agile, responsive supply chain which can service a single point, a single customer, and also be able to basis that build a demand and put in a view of how you can bring in intelligence back into the enterprise. This is, of course, enabled by the SAP S/4HANA Retail. So these are, in a sense, the view that in terms of, while we talked about customer centricity as the core, the framework that we have advocated at SAP is enables us to be able to bring the customer experience and the customer centricity dimensions to life. A slightly different mode, but we wanted to, this is about how this all comes together. How do we do end-to-end customer engagements with what I would like to call data-driven customer experience, to be able to first bring commerce everywhere, use that basis, build a customer data, which is essentially the customer golden record, get feedback and drive customer experience with both in terms of while he's at the store or while he's at your site, and also an ability to understand and gauge post. So bringing an end-to-end holistic experience, measurement mechanism, and to be able to service the customer and drive innovation, all driven by the core SAP Enterprise platform. So this was a quick view of what I had in terms of the observations of our trends of what is happening in the customer experience space, and a point of view of how we can help. I'm happy to take questions or now or anytime during the session.
Yeah. Thank you, Madhav. Thank you for that insightful presentation. It was indeed. I especially like the slide of Know Me. Where you spoke about trust, value, consent, and transparency. And many of us, in fact, all of us who are present out here, this is something which is an imperative for each and every retailer to know the customer. The customer is telling me, know me. And we have got here brands who have been very successful out, in achieving this. So with this, I would move to the second part of our webinar today, and that's the panel discussion with our esteemed guest. And, this first question I would like to ask Vineet, and that question is for all of you, and succinctly, if you can answer it. In the last 18 months, how has the customer changed? Okay, and do you think that some of these changes, how has the customer changed or how has retail changed? And are these things permanent according to you? So this would be the first generic question. Propose the change in your customer or your retail environment specific to your category. We have got shoes, we have got value retail, we have got Nalli's is known for saris, but they are into the apparel. They are icon there. We have got online, Dharma is with us, and we have got jewelry retail also. So it would be nice to get a perspective from all the leaders out here about their respective categories, that how has retail changed in the last 18 months. We start with Vineet.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hitesh, and the entire, I think the topic is looking very interesting to me, the agility, customer centricity, and resilient. I think out of these three, I can say that two are the core values of my company right now, to be Bhatt, agility and the customer centricity. It's looking quite interesting to me. And I can say the biggest learning for all of us out of this COVID era in the last, I can say the 18 months, that how we can make ourselves and our business model like more agile and more resilient. That's the I think I can say it's a learning out of the COVID. So when we look at like how we can make our company like more agile, and how we can bring more agility in ourselves. I think the two, in the retail context, I'm talking the two very, very critical part. One is like the planning to execution journey, like how we can shorten the entire planning to execution journey so that we can become more flexible or more agile. Example like largely we are doing a lot of buying, a lot of purchases. So in the current time, like we are using the word is MTM, TTM, mind to market, time to market kind of thing. So how we can reduce this thing? Earlier, in the retail, there was like a 6-month cycle kind of thing. Like we are buying twice, ordering 6 months ahead of the season sale, etc. But now I think a lot of good organizations, they move to the 2-month cycles. So they reduce their TTM and MTM both. So that's a one big thing, big takeaway I can say. And the idea is that how we can reduce it further in the coming time. Second is like again from the retail context, like how we can make our model is a more of the variable model kind of like doing the more partnership with our landlord, with our own people, our employees and vendor, etc. I think that will bring a lot of flexibility and I think more flexibility, more agility towards the business. Coming to your question, like how the things changed in the last 18 months, I can see the couple of things actually changed in the last 18 months. A lot of things which will like which will continue as a change. A lot of things which may reduce when this like when the lockdown, we have seen the lockdown phase, semi-lockdown phase, then we move to like complete open market scenario kind of. So I think when I'm looking at the consumer habits, consumer consumption pattern, so basic needs like seasonal, like kids wear, things actually the business actually improved. Obviously the wedding and other traveling related things actually went down in the past. Then one big trend like earlier I can say cosmetic, which is like look good for others. So now the thing is like look good for yourself. That is like how you can become more healthy in terms of your. So people are like more health conscious kind of a thing. Second, I think obviously the lot of movement we have seen in the from the towards the upward thing is like online kind of thing, physical retail, what Madhav also covered, and so that's the one thing happening. And one which biggest trend I can say since our model is largely into the tier 2 and tier 3 store, tier 3 cities and tier 4 cities. What we have seen, like unlike the other big online platform, lot of business we got from the chat and shop, which is like I guess a very big trend nowadays. It is like video call, customer want to interact with you. They only don't want to go only on the website and giving the order kind of thing. Rather they want to chat with you through the video. So our people are like taking them in the inside the store and showing them the varieties and chatting with them whatever thing they want. So this is a very big trend we have witnessed, and I am sure this will be further enhanced in the coming time. But yes, the convention pattern, once I think the market will open, people will again celebrate the post the COVID era will over. I am sure it will over soon, and we'll see the old convention pattern will come to the thing. But yes, the one thing is like this omni pattern, this chat and shop. Obviously, this will go higher and higher from the existing and the past pattern.
Thank you, Vinit. I think that was very insightful. I would move to now Amit ji. How has your retail customer changed over the last 18 months? And if you can throw some light from the jewelry perspective, please.
In the jewelry sector, we are looking very good response during post-pandemic. And when we refer 18 months, it is a means exit from the first pandemic and up to the end of second pandemic, that is 18 to 20 months period is there. So during these 18 months, we find that more new connect is there from the customer side, because we are a reasonable size regional brand in Maharashtra as such. Jewelry is a sector where 70% is a non-brand or regional or local tier 2, tier 3 cities, single shop players, and just 30-35% is with the regional brands or the national brands. But in last 18 months, we found that people are changing their mind from single standalone shop to regional brand or even national brand. We are there in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and we found that in tier 2, tier 3 cities, local, their family jewelers were carrying more business earlier. But after pandemic, when they saw that it is not possible for their single standalone shop kind of jewelry shops to continue in the business, and it is difficult for them to exchange their gold or exchange their ornament, getting proper value for their ornament. It may be just because of the policies of the buying branded jewelry house or any other reasons also. So they realize, all these customers realize that we need to get connected with some brand. It may be a regional brand or it may be a national brand, and that shift has increased our business exponentially. Means we are very much happy. We are getting better value realization, because earlier when that local jewelers were playing in the market, we were having certain limitation. There was a transparency on our part, there were sale policy on our part, purchase policy on our part. All policies were there, whereas those local jewelers were not having any policies, so they were in position to offer any kind of discount, because in future date, whatever is committed, there is no commitment. But for us, it was difficult to offer such discounts, because we are committed with our quality, purity, standardization, future price finding, and buyback policies and all these things. But now, since that competition has gone away to some extent, we are finding it in last 18 months, we are getting better connect. And pandemic, it is not at all good for anyone or the world as whole. But for our business, it has become somehow blessing, because we found that more and more connect is coming. And tier 2, tier 3 city, yes, we are observing that shift, because tier 1 city, there are all options are available since initiation. But tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are very few brands which are moving to tier 2, tier city. My 29 locations are there out of 16. That out of 16 are in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and we are observing higher sales is happening in those 16 locations.
Excellent, Amit ji. Out of the 29, 16 are in tier 2, tier 3, and you are experiencing high sales there. And you also spoke about what exactly Madhav's slide spoke about: trust and transparency. You know, those 4 points which I told about. No, the customer is telling know me, and this is where exactly you came, spoke and touched upon. Thanks for the insights.
In our industry, knowing the customer is that way. It's a in-shop concept, because once the customer enters, he takes at least 1 hour to exit.
Yes. I will take this part which we have discussed, in the next segment. I would like to go to Raj and ask his opinion on, how has the customer changed over the 18 months?
A warm welcome to all the audience and fellow panel members. Thanks for the question, Hitesh. See, consumer needs have been changing, right? What the pandemic has done is that, pushed it in a radical fashion, if I say so. And there are a few trends that we are observing that will continue to stay on a permanent basis. The first one being with respect to health and wellness. After a year of mostly marked with constant worry about the coronavirus and anything health related, is tending to be or wellness or comfort related tends to be top of the mind as far as customers are concerned, given the fact that for a majority they were all stuck at home, right? Or we were all stuck at home. Second thing that is there is brand loyalty is getting more and more fickle, right? With the growth of online shopping, and everything as a service, one sees that a lot of products and services are becoming commoditized per se. Like Gadgil Saab also mentioned, and I think Madhav also mentioned, a lot of local players are becoming regional are becoming national. So unless one is able to differentiate one's offering, your offtake or sales will tend to stagnate or worse fall. So that is the second trend that is there. It's a no-brainer that couch-based consumption, be it of products, services, or content, is the norm of the day. Yeah. And, OTT, for example, has taken off in a big way, which means that the kind of spends that one does in the area of marketing tends to be more and more digital, right? More and more nuanced with mass personalization, right? The other thing that has come across, is with respect to solidarity spending, right? More and more we are seeing people want to be part of a particular cause that they believe in, right? For example, there is an FMCG brand that runs educational programs for the girl child, right? and they market their own products by that name. I'm talking of Nihar Shanti Amla, and they run a Nihar Shanti Pathshala campaign, for example, right? Or not going with or going only on companies that believe or support a particular cause or brand is something that one is seeing, right? The other, and something that has come across during the course of the year, is of course a contactless experience, right? Again, powered by the pandemic, if one might say so, but contactless experience both for the offline and the online activities. This includes logistics and the whole supply chain handling of a particular product. Yeah. Contactless payment and online payments are seeing a strong momentum as against physical cash-based transactions. That has been a boon for a lot of us, right? The other thing is, obviously online shopping is playing a large role in our lives, and thanks to COVID, all variants, including bets on like stores on wheel, is something that we are seeing in the footwear market. Store to door, click and collect, and the omni-channel avatars of that, all are changes that have come across and accelerated in the last 18 months and will continue to stay. Basically, the boundary between offline and online, if you ask me, is more or less gone.
Gone. Right? Okay.
Over to you, Dr. Bhatt.
Thanks. The boundary between offline and online has gone. And this is what we could see what Madhav also spoke in his presentation. And before we come to the online part and take Dharma's view, I would ask Lavanya, Nalli has been an iconic brand. How has the customer changed in the last 18 months from an overall retail perspective also, and especially for brand Nalli, Lavanya?
Thanks, Hitesh. So I think all my panelists who've come before and Madhav have summed it up really quite well. So there's really not much more to add. But to your point, specifically, I think a couple of things have happened over the last 18 months. The changes which were bound to happen anyway because of new format, because of technology and tools becoming much more democratized, modularized, and available, all of that has just gotten accelerated. Probably what we would have seen unfold in somewhere between 5 to 8 years has unfolded within the span of 6 to 10 months. So that's literally what I can say about where the industry has shifted and how it's had that sort of a impact. These changes were anyway about to happen, and we have been seeing it across the supply chain, across multiple areas, but it just got accelerated out of necessity. So there's no longer this concept of early adopters and then the mainstream and the laggards. This pandemic really caused such a disruptive event that it forced everybody to have to adapt. And things like contactless payment and so on. I think the other thing from the consumer standpoint, the offline retailing will never go away in the sense, but it will be fundamentally different from how we know it today, or how we knew it before the pandemic. Offline as a pure offline strategy, I don't think anymore works, right? And which is the whole point of the discussion as well. Even in terms of marketing, which we don't talk about, but the ways in which you actually reach out to consumers, the ways in which consumers gain information and insights, and then that propels them to go out and to buy products. I think that has also fundamentally changed. If you look at it, like 18 months of all of us as well, we are also consumers stuck in the house, by and large, like a huge portion of that, not really socializing with too many people except for a very limited circle. Our content consumption has vastly increased. And I think what we've seen with some of the leading edge brands is this understanding that marketing as a very separate entity, ads, advertising in the traditional sense, as a separate entity from content consumption, I think those lines have also gotten very blurred. Now we are talking about digital and physical shopping formats getting blurred. I think that has gotten blurred. It was blurred for quite some time, for quite a few years, and the last 18 months accelerated it. The next wave, or sort of the emerging wave, which I'm seeing, is also the way in which people behave and what propels them to shop. So what happens before the consumer actually comes to your brand, whether it is online, offline, marketplace, and any of these other parameters, I think that has also changed. Word of mouth has given way to sort of social media, live commerce and content are extremely interlinked. So all of these, I think, are the trends that I would be quite interested to watch out for. The consumer is there, and you're already seeing it in certain platforms. It's not yet as mainstream as I think omni-channel is today, but this probably is the next wave that I'm quite interested to see how it's going to pan out.
Excellent. How it's going to be pan out. The suspense is there. In fact, the verdict is already out, but still India being such a huge market will now go to a model which Dharma, is a part of, and that's the online one. And Dharma, you heard our panelist. How do you compare that with, what you are doing, especially the format in which you are? And in your format, I think the consumer has changed for positive. That's what I would, say. But yeah, over to you, Dharma.
Thanks, Hitesh. And you're right. For us, it's been a far more positive change in comparison to some of the other panelists who were talking about. In fact, I would what I would feel is most of the points between Lavanya, Raj, Vineet, Amit have already covered in terms of how online and offline channels completely they are blurred. There are no more one way of doing business. So also what has happened, which briefly Lavanya also touched upon, is the penetration on the digital front and people becoming more aware on certain not so comfortable. Though e-commerce was always there, we were doing reasonably large numbers, and it has grown even in countries like even US. The penetration suddenly shifted gears from in US from 10-11% penetration in terms of online purchases moved to 25% plus. In India, digital payment as a means and method to pay for products or digital payment as a main thing, whether you're using net banking or a peer-to-peer solution, has completely changed, which also means our business model, which was highly dependent on cash on delivery based models, all of this has gone through a significant amount of change. Also in this period of year and a half, all of us would have sort of experienced UPI has become such a mainstay as a new instrument, and this is not stopping. The whole innovation around the payment and payment technology is also driving a lot of these changes, which is one big shift that is happening, which is making it far more easier and convenient for consumers to come online to make some of these purchases. Second big shift is the expectation from brand A to brand B is also becoming with a very high, is becoming very consistent, and the bar is becoming higher and higher. Which is something what even Rajgopal touched about. When it's an online world, it is just about another app that you download or adding another tab on your browser. The cost of switch is very, very low. You as a brand, unless you have a highly differentiated proposition and customer-centric in terms of anything and everything that you design, it would be very difficult for you to build a brand which will be sustainable, which will continue to grow and have value in consumers' mind. And that has also started sort of forcing some of us to make the kind of changes required to be highly customer focused and centric in an accelerated fashion. Investing in technologies, investing in insights to derive and build changes which will keep us on our toes to be able to provide best-in-class customer experiences, journey, understanding them, what preferences they have, how do we showcase those preferences, reducing non-value add in any of their actions, which has become primary. Second, also some of the points our fellow panelists touched, in this day and age when all of us are at home and old world way of measuring brand resilience like NPS, etc., where you try and establish how strong your brand is by your ability to recommend your friends and family. Now what is happening is if something goes wrong, people don't just talk to their friends and family, they post it on social and it is available for thousands and thousands of people, whether it is both positive or negative. So the amplification is much, much larger. It is not at a unit. So the whole equation was one detractor will take away one promoter. That is not the equation anymore. It is one detractor will take away a lot more promoter of your brand. So hence, there will be new metrics, new ways of looking at things. It will far more be input driven and consumer centric in anything and everything that you will design. So that's how we are looking at it. In terms of changes in how consumer will shop, there is so much more is happening. It's a multi-channel, omni-channel mode. Live commerce is becoming mainstream. There will be a lot of augmented reality, which will try and bridge the gap between offline and online retail play. There will be few categories which will be leaders in this, is how we are seeing it. So,
excellent. Thanks, Dharma. Amitji, this is the question to you and Lavanya. Then I'll have a different question for Raj and Vineet. So Amitji and Lavanya, today we'll start with Amitji, that today retailers are trying to create a relationship with the customers. And is your company focused on creating hyper-personalized relationships with the customer? And if you can give an example of it, and that would be nice, Amitji.
Yes, hyper-personalized relationship is one thing where general retailers can work on the telecalling and all these things, reaching to the customer in a different manner, sending mailers and all these things. But for jewelry industry, it is a very different way. It's a comfort business. First, customer should have comfort about you. The customer should trust you. It's a trust business, because he is not buying just something which is a fashion item or the fashion jewelry kind of thing. He is buying some valuable thing, and he is buying it for the lifetime. And it same has got resale value, replacement value, everything is there. So we create relationship with each customer, mainly within the shop, and subsequently follow-up things happens just like it happens with the others, like sending mailers, sending well wishes during their birthdays or their anniversaries and all these things. But when customer enters in the shop, generally he takes, when it's a jewelry, he takes 1 hour to stay within the shop, right from entering, selection, then checking the quality, fineness, everything, then billing, and then paying, and then getting out. It takes almost 60 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes. Within that period, at least our 4 to 5 people get connected with those customers, tell them about various things about the business, ask them all the things. How are you? Whether you have got any trouble during the pandemic, how pandemic was there, any effect of the pandemic during the pandemic, or otherwise in the normal course, how you are doing and whether everything is good or moving normally and all these things. When he get 45 to 60 minutes attention from my 4 to 5 people within the shop, he feels like he is one of the family member of the shop, and he gets more confidence about the shop. We have got one unique thing. Generally, we ask customer his mobile number, and from his mobile number, we detect his name, address, and everything. Many times it happens then when he tells us mobile number, the screen immediately pops up that today his birthday is there, today his anniversary is there. Immediately, generally, we keep 2 to 3 cakes every day available in every shop, so that if it pops up, we should celebrate immediately. Otherwise, those cakes are for the snacks of the employees. But first preference is for celebration of the customer. One incident I remember, it was 2 years back. One customer came to our shop. He was a 65-year-old man and 60 years old his lady partner, that better half, and they were purchasing. After completing purchasing, when they started billing, screen immediately popped up that today that man's birthday is there and couple's anniversary is there. When we announce that and celebrate that their anniversary and birthday in the shop, literally I can say they were crying with the happiness. But they said, in last 65 years of my life, or that lady said, in last 60 years of my life, I never celebrated birthday like this. And the gentleman said that I have never celebrated my anniversary in this form at any point of time. So that is a satisfaction level of that is a compliment given by those customers. And that is a practice throughout our 29 showrooms. So when I said earlier that we have got 16 in tier 2, tier 3 cities where these kind of things are not there at all. But customers found all these practices are there also, and they get some different feeling and different treatment, and they start feeling that yes, brand means something, or the regional brand or whatever it may be, chain store shops means something for them additionally over and above the standalone shop. So these kind of things happens, and we keep on posting them, whatever new coming, WhatsApp sale, as there is a concept nowadays, that engagement is there. But many times, many people in our industry, when customers are there, they are having a preference for keeping secrecy about their buying, or they want their privacy. So many times they get annoyed if excessive connectivity is created or developed with them, bombarding of the marketing created, bombarding of SMS, WhatsApp messages or clips are sent to them, and we get bounce back from them that no, I'm not expecting such thing, don't disturb me repeatedly. So in last 5 to 6 years, we have minimized and we are keeping it rotating, that every customer is not getting bombarded at every event, at every moment, and we try to keep their secrecy, privacy intact as per their choice.
Thank you, Amit ji. I think that was a classic example of when the mobile number and the birthday popped up, that today is their birthday or their anniversary, the example that you gave of the couples. I think that is a fantastic use of technology, how it can create more relationships and subsequently increase trust and engagement and a positive customer experience with the customer. Lavanya, your views on this? Nalli has been a brand which has been associated with the customers, a deep association over decades. Now in today's world, and when I say today's, in the recent times, how have you been, focused on keeping that relationship and more more connected with the customer, because today he has got more choices, more mediums, and the competition, and being influenced by others as well. Keeping all those things in mind, Lavanya.
Correct. So the short answer is really, it's just customer service, right? Like it's more than service. It's really do anything that is required to solve the customer's problem. Whether she has a problem, whether she has a query, whatever it is, right? So the basics of our company remain the same, right? Trust, quality, heritage. There's a certain threshold that we have for quality, below which we will not stock products. Having said that, we do understand that there are different budgets out there, that people have different occasions for which they would like to make purchase. And of course, I'm talking about saris, so we retail other things as well. So we will have things which are a little more affordable, but how do you build trust? How do you establish credibility? How do you ensure that you become a brand that is so fiercely embraced by your consumers, but pretty transparent, right? If you go to any of our stores and you flip over the price tag of a sari, if it is a half fine sari, it will say it's a half fine sari. If it is a cotton and silk blend, it will say it is a cotton and silk blend. And these are the places where, given how fragmented the sari industry is, and now more and more, I think, especially the last 20 years, the consumer is not as well versed in the different, like the idiosyncrasies of the sari, the weave, the pattern, the fabric, and all of that, as the consumer was 20 years or 30 years ago. And I think we all see it in our own lives, us, our sisters, our wives, our daughters. I don't think we're that old yet, but they probably don't know saris as much as, say, our mums or our grandmoms. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the retailer needs to go back to his core values and establish a position of trust. Now, the other point which I wanted to make, which was to your question around hyper-personalization, because it's actually quite an interesting one. And, Amit has spoken about it from an offline format perspective, how they are using data and the And they're using data to really enhance that physical experience, right? Which is an excellent way of doing it. There's all kinds of tools out there, all kinds of off-the-shelf solutions. It's like really the sky is the limit, both in terms of what you can do, as well as in terms of budget. So I will put that out there. And Madhav is here from SAP, and SAP themselves have like phenomenal tools which do like the bulk of it. So you don't have to really break your head about it. But I'll give you a couple of examples, and I'll give it to you as an anecdote. If you've ever noticed, if for those who are women, you would have seen it in yourselves, or you would have seen other women. For those who are not, in your wives or other women in your family who've gone shopping for saris, if you've observed the relationship or the interaction between the consumer and the salesperson for a product like saris, and I'll tell you why. The way that it works is, first she'll come in and she'll say, okay, listen, what do you have in this budget? Salesperson will say, okay, what are you looking for? Is it a wedding? Is it some family function? So this is what I'm looking for. But it's like it's a good function and it's a auspicious occasion, so it has to be pure zari. So she'll give a few traits. It has to be pure zari, and this is my budget. The first thing that the salesperson does, and this is what I call opening the funnel. Everything that qualifies with that one or two pieces of information. She wants pure zari because it's a religious occasion, and she wants it to be within 20,000 rupees. He will take out a set of diverse products. Do you want this color? Do you want this design? Do you want this thing? Here's everything. What does she do? She looks at it and says, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, right? In a lighter vein today, like Tinder and all these dating apps pretty much show that you just swipe right or swipe left. But that's pretty much what she's doing in the physical world. Like, what do I like? What do I not like? What do I like? What do I not like? What does the salesperson do? He's collecting that information. Okay, I understand her taste. She's gravitating towards reds. She likes the more structured sort of South Indian design. She doesn't like this floral motifs and Banarsi design. She doesn't like the georgettes and chiffons. She wants silk. That's information. So now when he has opened the funnel, he has gotten data from the customer, what she likes. Now he will narrow the funnel, right? So he closes it to say, okay, I have more parameters, not just budget, not just pure zari, but now I know color, I know design, I know weave, I know category. Within those parameters, now again, he will open the funnel. Now here's the depth. Here's the kind of variety that I have, which suits your newer criteria, which you've given me. He does all of this seamlessly. He doesn't ask her, what weave do you want? What category do you want? He asks her the most minimal information, budget, right? Maybe color or occasion. That's about it. He very rarely annoys the customer beyond two. That's hyper-personalization, which is nothing but, in a nutshell, understanding in the quickest time possible with the smallest amount of information required, what it is that your customer is looking for, and then providing them the discoverability and visibility into your entire range of products to say, okay, now I know what you want. Here's what I have, which suits what you're looking for. All of these things can be done very easily in the online world as well. And if you just take e-commerce, because it's the easiest example. If you go to Nalli.com, click on any sari on the product description page, right? Which is that final page, which has the add to cart button and everything. And if you scroll down, you'll see a similar product. You see 2-3 widgets there. There's a logic behind it. People who like this also like. That's the easiest way. This lady has a certain kind of taste. People who have her kind of taste, who have added her kinds of products in the basket, have these other kinds of products also in the basket. So let me show you this. The other way to do it is by design, and like who's the supplier, who's the weaver, is it our own design, is it something which is a design intervention by a supplier, all of that. The third way, which is really exciting, is like now you have these artificial intelligence, all kinds of off-the-shelf solutions. It's a visual AI. Exactly what a salesperson does. He looks at the sari and he does pattern recognition. What is it about this sari which is nice? What is it about this sari that speaks to her? He just looks at it and he knows, okay, she likes floral prints, she doesn't like this. She likes the big buttas, she doesn't like the small ones. She likes it spaced out, she doesn't like this. She likes tone-on-tone embossment, she doesn't like this. Visual AIs do exactly the same thing. They do it with pixel intensity, distance between the pixel, all kinds of other parameters, which we don't need to know, but ultimately they mimic the same behavior. So when we talk about hyper-personalization, the end objective is the same. Know your customer, really know that customer, what it is that she wants. And don't ask her, because she's not going to tell you, and we have to find a way to discern that information from her behaviors on the website or in the offline store, and then tune into it, iterate on that feedback, show her something, see if she likes it or not, and then based on that, show her more of that. These algos have been in existence for a long time, 10 years plus. It's just a question of, as they become more and more affordable, more and more off the shelf, I think I'm looking forward to that new phase where all of us who are in that digital physical space are really going to start using these in a much more holistic manner.
Thanks, Lavanya. I think that was again a very insightful, I can say a speech kind of a stuff where you gave all the, nitty-gritties of the sari part and, how it is done. You spoke about your website also. This goes along with this. So I think it was very insightful. I was just listening, I wanted to know more about it. But, on the same hyper-personalized this, we are going to the next question. And this one is for Dharam and Raj both. That, we start with Dharma first. We have seen a lot of brands looking at initiatives to unify customer engagement channels. What has been your experience and learnings in this regard? Initiatives to unify customer engagement channels.
Yeah, so my take on this is it has got accelerated by whatever event that have unfolded in the last 18-24 months. And also, since there is no divide, the expectation between online and offline has become uniform. So it is not essential that you get to see the latest season merchandise only in the offline store. Customer would love to see it. It's not that online world will only cater to season -2 deep discount products. And that is what is sort of driving customers to have a very uniform experience. Some of this, what Ms. Lavanya was also sort of talking about, is how you as a mall for brand forward that what is the core of what Tata CLiQ we stand for is how do we bring that experience for brand loving consumers. So what we try and do is be true to whatever every brand brings to the play, be able to provide the kind of experience which an offline retail store staff, the explanation that she was giving in terms of taking in those 2-3 input and insights and converting into a great experience for customer and trying to understand what she likes, what brand she likes, what categories she prefers to browse, etc., and trying to personalize all of it to every single customer. And we have done quite a bit on this in the last 3 to 4 months. For example, with the whole second wave, some cities and some states had gone into complete lockdown, and some states it was open. So if you are as a customer sort of firing up our app from TN, what you would see on the homepage would be very different from customers from Maharashtra. From TN, it was predominantly our core page, our offering, the stores were open and we were able to deliver all the products. But if you are a Maharashtra customer, you will get to see only essential products, which is allowed to be shipped. And these are some of the personalization, very, very typical to where you are from, which region, which city. And this is, as an ability, we are trying to be as close to the customers. At the same time, when a consumer, we know that at various points, we take in this input from customer that what are the brands that they prefer. So that goes in terms of us recommending what to buy, when to buy, what are the latest that is coming in from those brands. And it is shown at various points in time at whether it is a part of upper funnel when they are just starting to browse, or at the fag end of the funnel, at the lower funnel, when they are deciding to buy a certain brand of product. We give them basis our understanding of what their brand preferences are, their past purchase, their browsing pattern, and recommend the right product, right accessory that goes along with it as a part of our personalized journey enhancement for those individuals, which is very both on the customer side and the brand side. For us, it's a slightly more different. than a single brand retailer. But what we try and do is being very true to what a particular brand stands for. This also means that some of the calls that we have taken, very unlike an e-commerce player, we have added one click to any journey for the customers. So when you go to our homepage and we promote a particular brand, what we do is we take the customers to the brand specific page. This is with the intent that we as a platform who believe in providing the best of brand experience or a flagship brand store experience on the platform, what it has done is, though we have added a click, it helps in having a better engagement with customers and having a true sort of connect with the brands that we are currently trying to serve. And it helps us in the long term in terms of having a very strong association with customers. These are some of the steps that we as a broad-based marketplace working towards providing better experience to brand-loving customers are trying to do. So that's what we are trying.
Okay, thanks, Dharma. Very interesting. Before I come to Madhav, I would like to ask Rajgopal this question. Which has been the most effective initiative in your journey to customer adaptive retail and making experience the metal piece of customer experience, and customer engagement?
Sure. Yeah. So if one sees in the retail industry, there are certain kinds of engagement, that have stood the test of time, if one might say so. For example, loyalty programs. Okay. Have typically been very strong motivators for repeat purchase and continued love for the brand. Yeah, that is one thing that has been seen. Then there are the kind of engagement initiatives that are driven by the need of the hour, if one might say so. For example, taking your store to someone's door, right? Or having a mobile store on wheels was something that actually was very relevant to a period, which was specifically the COVID, in which we are hopefully, touch wood, coming out of. Right? And finally, as the consumers' needs and ecosystems evolve, right? Every brand needs to be more adaptive, given that today things like venture funding, technology, social media, everything as a service will ensure that the obsolescence cycle of any particular offering is low, and also the time to market for a new idea, trend, design will only be accelerated if you want to stay relevant. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. Madhav, we saw the presentation and most, it was very interesting. With that, I just wanted to know, can you share some examples of how SAP is helping some of the retail customers globally grow their business? And what is the role of technology in making this retail business become more customer-centric?
In terms of the whole approach is about connecting the customer intimacy back to business operations. And as a tech enabler, that's largely our role in terms of to be able to bring that insight into operations. And that's, in a sense, how we help, whether it be using that information to fine-tune your pricing and assortments, or whether it be using the customer information to making sure you get a very customized or a relevant promotion, if I may use the word. So these are in terms of what we do. In terms of customers, we are working with a whole range of customers, including a lot of retail customers in India itself. So one of our biggest, the maximum amount of work we do is with Titan, where we've done a lot of innovative work. We've done work, of course, with Dharma and Raj are here, so we've done some work with them as well from a perspective. But in terms of the biggest showcases globally, I would say the Under Armour story is possibly our biggest showcase in terms of how we've changed the sportwear brand into the entire transformation that you've seen in Under Armour. That has been completely powered by SAP. There's of course work that happens with the Body Shop and from a jewelry perspective, the the ML-based purchase patterns that you've seen Swarovski globally on their side, they're all working with SAP. These are a few examples, of course, but this is what comes to mind immediately.
Okay. We will go for the final question, which will start with Vineet. And what are the top 3 strategic priorities for all of you in the coming months, or maybe I can say in the next year, current year up to the next year? What would be those 3 strategic priorities? Before Vineet starts, I would request everyone to put on their share their questions here on the chat with our esteemed guest. We can take them and try to answer as much as we can in the limited time that is left. So over to Vineet. What are the 3 strategic objectives that you will be having for the next year or so?
So I can say a lot of priorities are there, and when I'm looking at from the strategic angle.
Vineet, can you be a bit louder? We can't hear you.
Yeah. I'm repeating again. So I can say a lot of priorities are there, and when I'm looking at from the higher level or from the macro level, a couple of strategic objectives is set for our organization this year. One is like the first and foremost important thing is the digitalization. The idea and intent here is like how we can make our system like that, rather than the people take the decision, how system can take the decision. That's the first and foremost. Then along with that, for the other digitization priorities, like we are moving and planning to move towards the endless aisle concept. In physical store, a lot of restrictions are there because some stores are of the 7,000, some stores are of the 10,000, some stores are of the 15, 20,000. So it's very, and we have the great amount of the assortment. So the idea is that the things which we are not able to keep at certain store, so how we can give that visibility to our customer through the endless aisle. So we can have the tab or we can have the other systems, screen, etc. at the store level. This is the one thing. Other digitization, I can say, like the customer feedback mechanism, I think these things are moving completely digitization. Then second, I can say that I think we discussed about the hyper-local approach for our customers. So idea is like, again, how we can treat each and every customer as separate individual customer, rather than it's like a bunch of customers, etc. So it's like n is equal to 1. That's the whole thought. And like keep engaging and like based on their past shopping experience, their past shopping pattern, a lot of potential areas are also coming up. So I think how to utilize that. Third, I think that is related and relevant with our topic. That is like agility in business. So I have already covered the points related to agility. Like we are working towards the end, reducing the planning to execution, moving towards the variable mode of the business, like MTM, PTM, I already covered. So that's, I think, the third key priority for the organization this year.
Thank you, Vineet. So the 3 priorities for Vineet are digitization, hyper-local approach, and agility in business. So these are the 3 areas that Vineet would be concentrating. Amit ji, what would be your 3 strategic priorities for the next year?
First of all, as I said, in jewelry industry, we are finding there is a huge shift coming from unorganized to organized. So how to accommodate all that shift, how to satisfy the higher number of customers which are coming to my place with using my existing capacity, and find out whether I really require any additional capacity to cater them or whether my capacity is sufficient. So to create capacity to accommodate huge shift which is coming from unorganized to organized sector. Secondly, digital transformation and using digital things more and more to save the time of customer. As I said earlier, that 45 to 60 minutes is the time which generally one customer takes after entering to shop and getting exit. So I want to display my entire inventory, which is held in all 29 locations, at a fingertip to every customer, so he can find out his liking, where exactly in which location, which showroom it is lying, and he can go there first to save his time. Because if he comes to my X shop and inventory is lying in Y shop, then he needs to again visit, or he needs to wait for getting that item from other shop to his designated shop. So I am trying to give him inventory at a fingertip at his end. Third is, as I said, there are compliances and hallmarking, HUIDs and all these things are coming. So we are going to run one campaign to educate the customers. Why branded, why regionally branded, why organized, and what are the advantage of the organized and compliance made stores over and above the local players or the standalone shop. So that campaign and that education campaign is going to be run in next 6 months, and especially it will be for the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and we are concentrating, we are designing that campaigning. And over and above for the our urban area, we are taking social media promotion and their responses to social media for knowing their preferences, their satisfaction level, their expectation, and we will try to deliver it. It may be the part of the CRM kind of activity.
Thank you, Amit ji. Capacity optimization, digital transformation, and compliances and campaign management are the priorities for Amit ji. Lavanya, what would be your 3 strategic priorities?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit. My 3 priorities are literally tech, tech, and tech. I mean, that's it. And the reason why I say that is from where I'm standing and with my business and the way that things have gotten accelerated, right? Of course, the offline stores have been having a bit of an up and down moment because of things beyond our control. Like if there's a lockdown, there's a lockdown. If you're in non-essentials, you're in non-essentials. So you can only be prudent and stick to your business practices and the values that have served you. But there's beyond a point, you don't really have control over that. However, the online business, Nalli.com, has completely accelerated. And when it's a weird problem because on the one hand, you have a different kind of a problem with all of your stores. On the other hand, you have like the problem of too much growth too fast. And now, you how do you fulfill all of this without breaking the customer experience? So those were, and honestly, it just comes down to where you make prudent investments. Even 5 years ago, it was not possible, right? 10 years ago, it was impossible to think that a retailer can have this level of information on their consumers with such ease in close to real time and at a fairly affordable cost for even small to mid-sized firms. Now that is not the case, right? Like most of these tools and everything have been modularized. It's just a question of, do we as entrepreneurs, leaders, founders, business owners, make it a strategic priority and make the right investments where they are needed? Because I think everything else stems from that. If I want to link up my inventory across all of the stores and that's going to lead to improvements in my EBITDA, the only way to do that is with tech. If I want to have hyper-personalization, again, the only way to do that is with tech. Anything that I want to do in order to serve the consumer better and follow good business practices in terms of looking at your, keeping your costs as low as possible, innovating and reducing waste and increasing efficiency, all of that really requires you to have a very strong, robust, tech-enabled backend and even a front end. So those were my top 3, and I think that's it.
Okay. So the 3 things that you want is tech, tech, and tech. So Madhav, you will have to, 3 out of 3 are giving priorities to tech. Dharam has to have tech because that is imperative. So we'll ask Raj and then go to Dharam for his 3 strategic, priorities. Raj, what would be your priorities?
So my 3 strategic priorities, we are in a VUCA world now. So the idea is to get business to be more relevant to the consumer, right? Be open to new technology. And third is be ready to constantly embrace change and do whatever it takes to achieve goal number 1. Thank you.
Okay, relevant to the consumer, open to technology, and be ready for constant change. Again, 4 out of 4, Madhav. Technology is the top one again in this. And last, Dharam, your views, your 3 strategic priorities, please.
Yeah, for us, obviously, it is technology. So we are a tech company. So this year, our focus is to be able to scale faster. We are growing 100% year on year, and we plan to grow at the same rate for next 4 to 5 years. And we will be sort of building new lines of businesses. Some of the work we're doing very closely with SAP team as well. So the focus area is first and foremost is moving from monolith, the way we are currently structured, to a slightly more agile microservices based architecture. Our ability to iterate faster and release features for consumers as quickly as possible. Second, as a part of our whole proposition in terms of providing holistic business solution to consumers rather than only online, only offline, we will be working very closely on certain categories and brands to be able to provide that as a proposition. Third one is very, very high focus on security, being security and compliance, privacy, etc. And it is becoming more and more critical, especially for someone in our space. That will have a lot of focus from our side. Fourth one is continue to lead on the technology side, which means building a very robust technology org and be able to hire best-in-class talent. It's not going to be easy, and differentiator between good and great is going to be on how good are we in technology. So those are the things that we would be focusing on. Apart from, so our base goals are to grow 100% year on year, and how we will build on the back of technologies where we are today. Thanks,
Dharam. Agile architecture, holistic business solutions, security, compliance, leading a leader in technology, and obviously growing year on year. So all those are the key strategic priorities for most of us. So Madhav, how would you summarize this? 5 out of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of them have tech as the key and the core. So what do you take, and what are your final comments before we close this part of the session?
Yes, so in terms of, I think that has also been what we were also had in terms of tech today is, in a sense, the core glue which binds businesses together. And in today's terms and the last year and a half, that has been a very strong catalyst in terms of transformation. So the way tech, and I think what it reinforces, the comment from all the panelists reinforces the fact that tech today is possibly far more relevant than the digital transformation that people keep talking about is really coming to life. And in that sense, that's also an indicator for us in terms of the amount of expectations that people would have from tech platforms. But that's largely my summary, Hitesh, but that's how I see this.
Thanks.
There's a lot of homework for us to do. There's a lot of responsibility that the panelists have laid on us, and we'll strive to fulfill that.
Sure. And I know you would be, and you are doing the brands that you are also working with. We saw that in the presentation and the case studies. All these are testimony to it. A couple of them are also working with you. So what we will do as a part of our next step is we will take the questions from the audience and then do a short poll of a minute. There is one question which Ashish R has asked. Process enhancements in information technology, VUCA related investments, etc., will also need support of human marketing effort. How do you see the two areas aligning and not being in conflict? Dharam, so I will repeat the question. Process enhancements in information technology, VUCA related investments will also need support of human marketing effort. How do you see both the areas aligning and not being in conflict?
See, yeah, it goes hand in hand always. So for us, we don't see it as two different path or a conflicting path. So and as a part of our practice, whenever we define our goals, we have what we call it as counter goals or counter metrics to ensure that we are on the right track. Like what I was explaining even in our metric definition in terms of how we are modifying from NPS, we have now said that NPS is still dependent on certain percentage of customer responding to us. We have driven a slightly more process-oriented approach, wherein we look at input. How many customers did we process the order on time? Did the order got shipped on time? Did the delivery happen on time? Customer did not have to return the product. and customer did not have to call our call center. All of these are very process-centric way of getting the same output what NPS gives you. So in my mind, it is actually not one over the other. It is how do you sort of try and build both of that in the similar fashion. So, and we as an organization are appreciative of the fact that both can sort of highly coexist, and we will try and use human effort wherever it is required to address more and more complex problems. So it's a division between the two. So you will try and use technology as much as possible to solve repetitive, low value, lower complex issues, and you will use human as and that will sort of keep going down. For example,
Sure.
yeah, for example, order tracking was the biggest reason why customer used to call center about 3 years back. Now all of this is available on your phone when an order is placed, and you will get it sort of sorted out. And that's how we will think whether it is human marketing, which is about sales, or if it is human service, it is about post sales. We believe technology will continue to solve simpler and easier problems, and complex problem will continue to have human effort coming in. I hope I answered the question. So
yeah, actually he had just addition to this that there was one point that the part was just hold on, that technology is making things standardized, non-human, hence the question. So he clarified that also. But friends, I think we have come to a close as far as this panel discussion is concerned. I want to thank all the panelists here. We would like to do a small poll before we go to the next presentation of Alfred. Can we have the poll, please? It's a 60-second poll. We are going to ask 2 questions or so. I would request Shiv and Des. Yeah, poll number 1. This is the question 1. Which of the following areas is of relevance and interest to your organization? You can click on any of these. We'll have 30 seconds for this, and then 30 seconds for the next question. It's a single choice question. So is it loyalty and customer data management, commerce and marketing management, or customer trust and hyper personalization? Okay. Okay. Okay, this is the poll number 2. Okay. With this, we'll move to the final part of this webinar, and I would invite Alfred Choi from SAP to please share the presentation. Over to you, Alfred.
Thank you. I just want to double check, how much time do I have for my presentations?
Yeah, you can complete it, Alfred. We can do it in what is the length of your presentation?
I just want to double check because I know that we are overrun, so I just want to make sure my presentation can fall into your time frame.
Sure.
How much time do I have?
So you can. So we have exceeded. We can do it in 10 to 12 minutes.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I will trim down some of the slide and try to do it in 10 minutes, and hopefully I can share the key point with everyone. So thank you very much for all the panelists sharing today. I think all the comments are very relevant and very variable, especially it's very aligned and resonate to the presentation I'm trying to make today, which is about how do we make use of the data and try to leverage the new answer to the new retail environment after COVID. So some of the slides I've prepared are about like the year 2020 was the year of acceleration. I think a lot of panelists you already share about what COVID forced the changes of the business and how to digitalize the whole business. And one of the point I want to make here is a lot of changes is made for especially for those business who are a little bit slow on digital adoption, probably need to look at a budget cut. And these budget cuts impact a lot on the marketing. And when we do research and e-consultancy did a research on the business about the budget cut on the marketing, and lots of people talking about, budget cut is not just about the people shift, and actually a small amount of them talking about people shift, but most of them is talking about how to realign their technology, how to shift on their strategy, all these kind of things. And we see this is a new opportunity for digital retail, especially on the online, how to shift the offline retail to online. And the panel is just sharing one statement just now. We can see offline retail will not go away, but pure retail will not work anymore. And businesses are forced to change in many areas. There's absolutely some of the new opportunity for digital retailing. And for the digital retail, some of the number that I would like to show here is about 87.5 billion of its sales is influenced by personalized offer. So how does the brand understand the customer information, understand the data, understand what they are interested to, so that you can put in place a right marketing strategy to match your customer interest? That is the key of winning the customer trust and getting the customer repeat purchase. So some of the challenge I see, for example, technology optimization, 58% of the brands think that the MarTech stack is not fully potential being used. 27 of the marketers believe that the data is still the key obstacle to do the personalizations. So these are the business challenge that I can feel or I can see from multiple business across the whole APJ region, not just about Southeast Asia, but also in India, Korea, and also Japan. So what actually is needed is all about time. It's about how fast you can adjust to the situations. So how do you quickly deliver the true one-to-one personalization, how to adjust and accelerate the time to value, and also make sure you're producing a measurable business result. So in short, how SAP help? SAP help in 3 different areas. How do we connect user to the brand? How do we collect the customer consent and preference to build the customer trust? And how do we make use of all these data to do hyper-personalization, one-on-one engagement, etc.? So this is the SAP approach. We firstly capture customer data across different business, across all the business and multiple touch points. And we accelerate it by having industry analytic and also use cases. And we also personalize this with AI, understanding your customer interest, what kind of product fit to them will create results and create revenue for the business. And then we try to do a marketing automation across different channels. And you can see here, the very first things here is about capturing data. And Dr. Hitesh, you just mentioned about Know Me. I listened to the webinar. Know Me and build trust is literally the foundation of the whole data-driven CX and data-driven marketing or data-driven customer experience. So Know Me, building the trust is somewhere SAP could adjust. Like we have the customer data cloud can help you to capture the customer preference and consents, understand the version that they accept to, what kind of privacy policy that they have accept to in order to fulfill the India later privacy law. Understand the customer, what is their interest in the brand, what is the website behavior, and more importantly, let your customer control their own data. All right. So this is some of the basic element that we could how SAP could help you to capture the customer data. So after we capture the customer data, it's all about making your data actionable. And it's not just about how to make it, but how fast you can make it. So with SAP, we also help you to make use of all these data collected and reaching all together with the data analysis and action together. So we provide a series of analytics and show the retail KPI and help understanding what's happening in the retail store, what's happening in the online store, and what's happened to the loyalty. And we link all these up with the pre-built business use case, and all these business use case can be easily activated and launched in a short period of time. And this is the time to value that we are talking about. So you're no longer like taking 90 days to activate all these kind of marketing strategy by understanding the data, but we are trying to make use of your data and allow you to activate all these marketing campaigns based on data in 1 day of time. And at the end of the day, what we want to achieve here is to help you understanding your strategy, understanding what kind of channel that you should engage with the customer, which is the right audience segment, and also what will be the revenue impact, and make sure we measure the conversion, not just on the online, but also on the retail. One of the biggest challenge I hear from the marketing team is that they always talking about when you run a digital campaign, what is the conversion rate on the online store? But how does it impact to your retail? Is literally the key, because 80 or 90% of the retail business still have 70% of their revenue coming from the retail. So what is the impact of the revenue is literally the key of some of the area that the brands always want to always need to look at. Some of the example case study that we put here, for example, we help Puma to do the digital transformation. They see 5 times increase in the revenue or share from the email and website channel, impacting their online and retail business, driving 25% of the open rate and increase 50% of the database size in last 2 years. Selling Group, one of the largest grocery retail, they're seeing like 35% increase in the AI portal recommendation, 30% increase in the open rate, and 25% increase in revenue within just 5 weeks. So we see a lot of success here. I understand we're running out of time, just trying to leave some consideration for all the audience here by looking at how long does it take to bridge the gap between the business issue and your marketing action? How do you measure your business outcome of the digital marketing campaign, not just online, but also retail? How consumer purchase versus how do you promote? Do you really understand your customer interest and able to feed the right content to your customer, and what consumer want to buy versus what you want to sell? Always let the customer take the control. So it's a very short presentation today. If anyone interested, please feel free to connect with SAP team. I'm happy to discuss more about your business situation and how do we impose this kind of personalized marketing and data-driven marketing to your brand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfred. It was short and sweet and very insightful. You did speak about know me, trust, transparency, and control. You spoke about increased speed and ability through data insights. You also spoke about measuring promotions, and also the examples of Puma and selling that Puma increasing 5 times the revenues and things like that. So I think a very, very interesting, short and insightful presentation. Thank you, Alfred, for the presentation. With this, friends, we come to an end to our webinar, Journey Towards Becoming Agile, Customer-Centric, and Resilient. Thank you very much. Thank you, SAP. Thank you, all the partners and the speakers here. This is the last question. Would you like to co-innovate with SAP to address any ideas or initiatives which we can work together? Do you want us to get in touch with you for the same? This is a simple yes or a no question. I would request all the participants to answer to this poll question number 3. And with this, we can then sign off. Okay. Fair enough. So thank you very much. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you all the participants. It was a pleasure. Would you like SAP to get in touch with you to discuss any initiatives in your organization? The single choice, yes or no. This is the last question. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being with us today. And thanks all the panelists once again. Thank you very much.